Today's lesson is section 2.3, and we're going to be talking about slopes of lines. So by the end of class today, you should be able to use slope to find parallel and perpendicular lines. Now this should be a nice review from Algebra 1, and tomorrow's lesson, or section 2.4, should be as well. So first of all, slope, just to refresh your memory, it's the ratio of vertical rise to horizontal run. So remember, we can always write that as rise over run. All right, so it's the change of the rise to the run. Now, rate of change describe how a quantity changes over time. We typically refer to slope if we're just looking at a line, but rate of change is more of like the application problems or those math story problems. So we do have a formula to help us find slope, and it says slope, which we use the little letter m, so a lowercase m, of a line containing any 2 points. Here again, missing parentheses. X sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2 is given by this formula. And it's lowercase m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So that, subtracting the y values, is showing the change to our rise. The subtraction of x values in the denominator is showing the change of our run. So for our first couple examples, we're going to go through and just find the slope. So if you remember from previous years, if they give us the graph, we can form a right triangle to find our rise to our run. So in this case, I have to count my rise. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it is 8 units, and I'm going to pretend I went up. Okay, so up 8. But now I have to go to the left 2. So if I go to the left 2, that's a minus 2. And then always remember to simplify. Make sure I counted this right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, just making sure. So we end up getting a negative 4. All right. If I were to use the ordered pairs, so I would call this x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. I would do negative 1 minus 7 all over negative 1 minus a negative 3. I would get a negative 8 in the numerator, a positive 2 in the denominator, and we still end up getting negative 4 as our slope. So that's just a little refresher on how to find the slope using rise over run in your diagram and how to find slope using 2 points. For B, all right, so if I'm going to these 2 points, I can't make a triangle to go from the point up there to the point down here. So I'm just going to do rise over run. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I rose 7, so that's my y value. But do I run at all? So do I have any movement from left to right, any horizontal movement? And the answer is no, so that's 0. So here's what we need to remember. If you divide by 0, it is undefined. Right? You are no longer allowed to write no slope, because if you write no slope, I don't know if you mean no as in 0 or no as in undefined. So you either need to write undefined or 0 as an answer. If you forget which one is which, type this in your calculator. Let me show you now. I don't think I have my calculator open. Let me open it quick. So if I type 7 divided by 0 and hit enter, notice how it gives me this overflow error. But if I type in 0 divided by 7, it gives me an actual answer of 0. So just keep that in mind, that if you get an error, that means it's undefined. All right, for C, again, I'm going to create my triangle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now be careful, I counted my run first. So that's 8, that's positive. My rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So can we simplify that at all? The answer is no. 'No. So we are done with that. And finally, last but not least, we have these 2 points. I have no rise, so I'm going to put 0. But my run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, remember 0 divided by 8 is 0. Okay, so we can have a slope of 0. Think of a ramp that is not slanted at all. One thing I always refer back to or ask my students to remember to check is that vertical line test. So if I take my pencil across, I guess it's not really the vertical line test, but if I take my pencil across like I would for the vertical line test, from left to right, because that's how we read a graph. For A, my line is going down. So that means it should have a negative slope, which it does. For C, if I take my pencil across it, it is going up from left to right, and up is a positive slope. So please always double check that when you're done, just so you don't make small errors. All right, for example 2, it says for one manufacturer of camping equipment between 1995 and 2005, annual sales increased by 7.4 million per year. All right, so that's how much it increased per year. In 2005, the total sales were 85.9 million. If the sales increase at the same rate, what will the total sales be in 2015? So they gave us a lot of information here. The one thing I see is in 2005, they had a sales of 85.9. All right, and then in 2015, we don't know the sales, so I'm going to put that as a Y value. So I made 2 ordered pairs out of the information they gave us. And I underline that 7.4 million per year because a lot of times people want to substitute that in for this Y, which is not correct. The key word, it says, if the sales increase at the same rate. This is the rate they're increasing. So that is actually my slope. So I'm going to set 7.4 equal to, and now let me x1, y1, x2, y2. Now substitute in what we know. So it's going to be y minus 85.9 all over 2015 minus 2005. Right, so if I subtract those two, I get 7.4 equals y minus 85.9 all over 10. If I multiply both sides by 10, let me come up here, I get, 74 equals y minus 85.9. If I add 85.9 to both sides, we get y is 159.9 million. Okay, now there are some other ways to do it that are sort of more common sense, but this is the more mathematical approach to it. So if you are interested in those other ways, just shoot me a message and I would be happy to explain those methods to you. All right, so now taking a look at parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines, it says, have a product of their slopes of -1. So we say that is opposite reciprocals. All right, so opposite means if it's positive, it becomes negative, and vice versa. Reciprocal pretty much means we flip our fraction. So for our examples here, it says determine whether FG and HJ are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we're going to have to go through and find their slopes. So FG, x1, y1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So I'm going to do m equals -1 minus a -3 all over -2 minus 1. Change those two negatives to positive, so we get 2 over -3. All right, which can't be reduced, so we're done with FG. Now let's do HJ. So x1, y1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So m equals 3 minus 0 all over 6 minus 5. We get 3 over 1. So now I have to compare these two. They are opposites because FG is negative, HJ is positive, but they must be opposite reciprocals, not just one. It has to have both things. So they are not reciprocals of each other. So therefore, are they the same? So we know they're not perpendicular because they're not opposite reciprocals. They're not parallel because it's not the exact same slope, so that must mean this one is neither. Right, example 3b, we're doing the exact same thing, FG and HJ, but they gave us different ordered pairs this time. So x1, y1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So if I'm doing FG, negative 3 minus 2 all over 6 minus 4. And we get negative 5 over 2 is our slope. Now for HJ, get 10 minus 5 all over negative 3 minus a negative 1. Don't forget those negatives. So we get 5 over negative 2. So if I look, I have the negative up top on the left, but the negative on the bottom for the right. Does that matter? And the answer is where you put that negative does not matter. You just can't have it two places, because if you have it in the numerator and denominator, it makes it a positive slope. So right now they look exactly the same, so we're going to say they are parallel. Right, and our very last example, it says graph the line that contains Q and is parallel to MN. All right, so parallel to MN with these ordered pairs. So negative 2, 4, there's M, and N is positive 2, 1. All right, so there's my line. Let's see how straight I can draw it. Not too bad. All right, but now it says we have to do another line. It has to go through 5, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1. So it has to go through that point, but it has to be parallel to my other line. So I'm going to find the slope. I'm going to make my triangle here. Now, you could find the slope using your formula if you prefer. So 1, 2, 3, so negative 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from my blue line, I also need to go, I can go up 3, 1, 2, 3. But then since that was a negative, I need to switch the negative to the 4, so I need to go back 4. Oh my goodness. All right, so now let's go back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my point. Now I can try to draw this line straight. Helps if you have a ruler. And there we go. Now we have our parallel line. All right, so if you want to pause the videos, try the your turns. I'm just going to go through, write the answers, and we will be done for the day. All right, so this last one, that is the new line you should have. I'm not going to draw the line they gave you.